Selwyn, for this insightful presentation. Thanks a lot. Feel free to take a seat here in the armchair, please. And then we invite, invitamos a que suba al escenario Pablo Rivera para seguir esta interesante conversación. Fijaros que una de las ideas, como persona crítica de la tecnología, gracias por estar aquí con nosotros, una persona crítica como Neil Selwyn, ¿no?, sostiene que si bien debemos tomar en serio la actual rebelión tecnológica, porque esto ha llegado para quedarse y porque va en serio, también es importante utilizarla como estímulo, ¿bien?, para imaginar formas futuras de tecnología educativa mejores. Y en esa palabra, en la palabra mejor, es donde él nos ha hecho ese hincapié. La noción de mejor agrega una dimensión moral y nos invita a que abordemos la tecnología educativa empujándonos pues, a comprometernos en los valores, las ideas, ambiciones y las ideologías. Esto a modo de resumen de esta interesante ponencia que ahora Pablo va a tener la oportunidad de seguir tirando del hilo. Adelante.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Yes? Thank you very much to everyone and for the organization for inviting me to talk with Neil this short period, but I have some questions that friends of us to send me the last week and today also. So I try to build 4 questions. Maybe we don't have time, but I will try. No? First, thank you very much for your conference. It has been a really stimulating exhibition that invites us to rethink the way we approach criticism of digital education. In this sense, it's interesting to see how the critical view of educational technology has grown and become more important. 20 years ago, during the discussion about One Laptop per Child programs initiative around the world, criticism on educational technology was not a main topic and stayed mostly within academic circles specific. Today, almost 20 years later, this perspective has become much more visible, not only in the university, but also in the school and among other different educational groups and stakeholders. So what do you think about this growth of the critical view on educational technology? And what do you see as the main reason for this change?
There's a guy called Cory Doctorow who has a really interesting concept called enshittification. And it's this idea that the technologies that we have now are getting worse and worse and worse. So you go onto a website and there are adverts everywhere and it just gets worse and worse and worse. You use Teams and it's just awful. And I think lots of the technology that we're all using now, we all know it's not very good. It doesn't work very well. It's a bit shitty. And I think people realize that now. And I think people are willing to say, hang on a minute, this is not as good as it could be. And the enthusiasm that we had about technology being fantastic has kind of rubbed off a bit. So I think people are just a lot more used to technology not working in the ways, and it's really obvious that technology's not transformed education and made it better, and people are more willing to. But the thing is, people might acknowledge now that it's not very good, but it's now taking another step to think, how could we have a new wave of technology that is actually good?
Good. In one of your recent texts, you highlight the work of Bruno Latour and refer to an idea that is central for knowledge discussion, is central for knowledge discussion and EdTech discussion. So we can apply this idea in different fields. No? The critic is not the one who debunks, but the one who assembles. The critic is not the one who lifts the rocks from under the feet and the naive believers, but the one who offers to participants arenas in which to gather. The critic is the one for whom if something is constructed, that is made that is fragile, and thus and great need of care and caution. It's a very beautiful expression, Bruno Latour. In your lecture, covered key topics such as digital platform, algorithm governance, the commercialization of education. While it is important to criticize this dynamic, but it's also essential to understand their social and political context. This means not only looking at the effect, but also exploring how they can be reshaped and regulated to support social justice, fairness, and open access to knowledge. In this sense, what do you think that now this post-critical perspective, what do you think this shift is so important now in this moment? And what should be the first step for academic, university, policymakers and activists also to move to this direction?
I think we really need to think carefully about how we could build different forms of technology. And I think universities, for example, have always built technologies. Universities invented the first forms of AI, so universities should be actually developing technologies, public education technologies. So again, I would like to see government, I would like to see public organisations becoming much more involved in developing technology in collaboration with private sector. But I think we just need to work much more together for a value-driven building of technology. And the critical perspective can just allow those conversations to happen. We need to get people together and talking about these things, but I think we actually need to start building stuff. And again, I think that doesn't have to be done just by the big tech firms. It can be done by local small EdTech firms. It can be done by students. It can be done by universities. It can be done by everybody. So we need to think about, actually kind of building some new stuff.
About the role of big tech in digital education, what is important to the community of CSET, critical student education and technology, take part of this debate about the role of the big tech in education, and how the academia, but not only the academia, the school community, work with technology companies without losing his critical perspective?
I mean, lots of people that work for tech companies are super critical and super political and are really well, have great values. So I think there's lots of great people working in the tech industry that can push for this as well. And I think schools can work. I really like the idea of local EdTech. I haven't got a problem with Microsoft or Google, and if I want to search for something on the internet, I normally use Google or DuckDuckGo, so I'm not kind of against the big firms. But I think in terms of education, you want technology that's been developed for your local schools, your local context, and I think local EdTech is much more contextually rich and contextually suitable, rather than having a one-size-fits-all, everybody uses a platform that was developed in San Francisco, and for somehow that fits to Barcelona. So I'd much like to see the local EdTech firms supported, again, in a more communal way, by universities, by school systems, by governments, by everyone else. So keep it small and keep it local.
Great. We have today a big community of teachers present in this audience. So about this, in your recent work, you examine how digital platforms and AI are changing teacher professional identity. Almost 6 years ago, you wrote tool robots replace teachers.
Should robots replace teachers?
AI, the future of education. Many teachers from different education levels are here today, and they were very interesting about your point of view of this. How do you think this technology may affect their teacher autonomy and professional identity?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. In theory, AI is meant to support teachers to do fantastic work and free you up from all of the things you don't want to be doing so you can do proper pedagogical work. What we're seeing, though, is that the AI systems that are coming into schools, and this isn't generative AI, these are there are lots of other forms of AI, often means more work for teachers. Teachers have to do a lot of work around the edges to keep these systems working, and often will lead to teachers' work being extended into the evenings and into the week. So I'm worried about this, that I think the technology doesn't make for less work, it makes for worse work. And I think teachers need to be aware of this. They need to push back. I think teaching unions in particular need to take AI very seriously as a it's a work issue. And when you find the technology not necessarily helping you do your work as a teacher, you should be confident to say, no, we're not using this. This is not good enough, and push back.
Okay, last question. About the CSET meetings that you promote around the world, and in fact, today in the afternoon, we will have some this CSET meeting, and in this conference, I will give you the detail in the end of this talk. We know that have been promoted CSET meeting in different parts of the world this week, actually. Given your key role in this discussion, could you explain the vision behind this meeting? And what are the main goals and what key issues do they aim to address in digital education?
So we invited everyone around the world who wanted to get together and have a local meeting talking about critical studies of education technology to have a meeting this week, anywhere they wanted. And we've got, I think, 55 different meetings all around the world.
Until yesterday, 55.
And what I was hoping was, you know, in Star Wars where there's a disturbance in the Force and they feel that there's something going, so I figured there's going to be a global kind of shift and people are going to think, hang on a minute, something's different. But it's working out really, really nicely. And the idea is to build local networks, and that's why we wanted to do it locally. We wanted local people to talk about the issues that really were affecting Barcelona or Catalonia and EdTech, because it's very different than the issues that are kind of we find in Melbourne, for example. So we wanted to get local voices, local opinions. There's a question about how things might be different, and just to get people together and start working things out on a local basis.
Great. Solo un recordatorio, hoy a las 3:45 en el room, en la aula 3, la primera planta, tendremos la sesión, una de estas sesiones que se hace en España de CISET. Estarán presentes con otros 8 académicos de Cataluña y del resto de España, así que están todos invitados. So, dear Neil, thank you very much for sharing your insight and for this inspiring discussion. Later.
Thank you very much.